Hello, my name is Blossoms, and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. And last week I was talking about the Electro Traveler and how great they are, how much of a fantastic battery they are, and how you should definitely be building them. And well, it's been a week, and I've built my Electro Traveler at least well enough that I am ready to go ahead and show them off to you guys, to go ahead and let you guys know how you might want to be building your Electro Traveler along the way, as I'm sure some of you might be asking and wondering what might be the best for you and kind of where he fits. So today that's what we're going to be going over. But before we hop into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it does help me out a ton and I deeply appreciate it. You can always change your mind later, but other than that, let's go ahead and show off the Electro Traveler build. First of all, you're going to need to know how these skills works. The normal charge and plunge attack don't really matter on him. I leveled it up a little bit because being at level 1 just kind of bothered me a little bit, but you don't really need to level it all that much because you only really care about his E skill and his elemental burst. And his E skill here is called Lightning Blade, and essentially the way it works, toss out your E skill, you picked up these amulets that are dropped when you hit a target with that E skill, and they will restore energy and increase your energy recharge. Now you only get 2 on this E skill, but once you start hitting his constellations, Constellation 1 here, you get a 3rd amulet there, so that's important to know. I have C3, I'm still grinding those out. But yeah, essentially that's how it works. You toss this out, you deal some damage, you get these amulets, and whoever picks them up is getting a little bit of energy and an energy recharge increase, and that is a key part of his kit, and we'll get into that as we talk about how he likes to play. But his elemental burst here is, you call an elemental burst, deals a little bit of electro damage, and then for the duration of the elemental burst, whenever you use a normal or charge attack, it's going to call forth falling thunder, and that is going to deal some electric damage as well as restore some energy for that character, and this can happen every 0.5 seconds as long as you're doing your normal / charge attack. Notice the skill damage here isn't anything crazy. That's the initial cast, by the way. The falling thunder damage is not anything all that impressive either. It's 62.3%. You gotta remember, we're at level 11 here. I've got his talent all the way to 8. So as we can see, the Electro Traveler really isn't meant for damage. He is pretty much tailored for that battery role. And whenever that falling thunder does hit, it's going to regenerate 1 energy, and it's got a pretty decent duration. It's got a high energy cost, so that's very important, and we'll talk about that when we go over his artifacts as well. But then he's got the passive here, the Thunder Flash. When another nearby character in the party obtains an abundance amulet created by Lightning Blade, Lightning Blade's cooldown is decreased by 1.5 seconds. That's always important to remember, because grabbing those little amulets for the Traveler is sometimes the best move, just because it's going to get you quicker to your next Lightning Blade, which is going to get you quicker to your next Elemental Burst, which both are going to facilitate getting your other character's energy up faster. And then finally, this passive is very important for your Electro Traveler support build. Essentially increases the energy recharge effect granted by Lightning Blade's Abundance Amulet by 10% of the Traveler's energy recharge. So what this means is it's basically going to take 10% of your Traveler's energy recharge, and then it's going to tack it on to the 20% you already get for picking up an amulet. So a great example is my Electro Traveler here has 224 energy recharge, so we're going to be getting about 22% or so extra energy recharge when we pick up a lightning abundance amulet here for our characters. So they're not going to be getting 20% energy recharge increase, they're going to be getting around like 42 or 44, something like that. So that's really important, and that's why you're going to be wanting to really build your Electro Traveler for energy recharge, and we'll get into that as we talk about the artifacts as well. As I mentioned before, I do have his C3. Do remember, all these constellations are free, you just got to grind them out in Inazuma, and that's what I've been doing. The first one is obviously the most valuable, giving you an extra amulet is really good, but then it does get even better where you start to decrease electro resistance with the C2. C3, of course, is just an increase in the talent levels, and C4 is probably one of the more valuable ones, where you gain additional energy. Well, essentially you gain double energy if the character is below 35% on their energy. So this is a really good one, and I'm very excited to go ahead and get this one. That's probably going to be the most valuable, but as you go along, the C6 here isn't bad either. That's going to be giving you some additional energy as well as allowing your falling thunder to deal additional damage. So all of these are fantastic, and they are all free, so there's no reason not to get them, but it's important to know how they work. In terms of the artifact set, yeah, I've been grinding a bunch of the brand new domain here, and I've been lucky enough to get at least a half decent Emblem of Severed Fate set here. I got extremely lucky on the feather and flower here, where I got really good crit rate and crit damage substats, so those are pretty nice. But then I really had to settle on some of the other stuff, like I was just happy to get a main stat energy recharge here and crit rate right here, but their substats aren't very good at all here. So this is by no means a end game grinded traveler, as these artifacts really need to improve. But with that said, this 4-piece is definitely going to be the best on him, just because you get an extra 20% energy recharge, which is phenomenal for his kit, because you're going to be giving a little bit of that energy recharge to your characters. And then not only that, the 4-piece is going to allow his burst to actually at least deal a bit of damage. It's still nothing too impressive, but it's definitely a lot better than it was before, or without this set. So that's really important to know. As for the main stats, you're probably going to want to go energy recharge, electro damage goblet, and crit rate. However, I can say you can definitely go attack percent sans right here if you have really good energy recharge substats. I have plenty of characters with no energy recharge main stat, and they're like at 180 energy. So if you can get those really good energy recharge substats, then attack percent is totally fine here, but you definitely want plenty of energy recharge on your Electro Traveler. Other than that, you're going to want to be prioritizing things like crit rating, crit damage, and maybe attack percent. And as I said, of course, energy recharge on the substats is going to be very nice. But yeah, those are the things you're going to look out for. This is definitely the set you're going to want on your Electro Traveler. However, you definitely have some options with this. You could certainly go 2-piece Noblesse Oblige, or even 4-piece Noblesse Oblige, because you are getting his burst relatively often. But you could also easily do something like 2-piece Gladiator and the 2-piece Electro. I can't really recommend the 4-piece Thundering Fury, because the 4-piece Thundering Fury, the effect to reduce your skill cooldown, even though he has a relatively long skill cooldown, the fact is you have to be on the field for the secondary effect to proc on 4-piece Thundering Fury, so it's not really the best on him. You can definitely make it work. However, he doesn't really like to be on the field at all, so I really can't recommend it all that much. But other than that, yeah, the Emblem of Severed Fate is definitely going to be your best, but you can definitely mess around with something like 2-piece Noblesse and 2-piece Thundering Fury, or 2-piece Glad, 2-piece Noblesse, etc. However, I do think you're definitely going to want that 2-piece Noblesse Oblige in there, or 4-piece. Those are both fine, but overall, this is definitely just the best set. As for weapons for the Electro Traveler, you've got a lot of options. I've been messing around with a couple primarily, that being the Sacrificial Sword here and the Favonius Sword. And I've got to say, these are about on the same level of how good they are for the Electro Traveler. And we'll get into that just a moment. Do know that I think these are the best in slot, in my opinion. Of course, you can use a 5-star like the Skyward Blade here, but its passive doesn't really benefit you nearly as much as these. For the battery character that the Electro Traveler is, these are really going to be what you want, but not everybody has access to these. And if you don't, things like the Festering Desire are totally usable, and even the new sword, the Amenoma Kageuchi, is pretty darn good. It's got a high attack percent substat, and this also allows you to gain a ton of energy off of its passive, but you do lack that energy recharge substat, and these are pretty big energy recharge subsets, so it's definitely something to miss out on. But if you have really good energy recharge, then this actually might be the move for you, because this does start to generate a ton of energy. And I am going to be testing this in the future whenever I'm able to eventually level it up. As I am with all the weapons, I want to level up all the weapons and mess around with them. And I think this is going to be a great option for him. I just don't think it's going to be better than Sacrificial Sword or Favonius Sword. As for other alternatives, you don't really have much. You could maybe use Lion's Roar if you're trying to go for a damage version, but as I said, I really don't think that's worth it. Things like the Skyrider Sword are definitely an option as well, because the energy recharge substat, but not much is really going to help you out a ton here. Definitely going to want to focus on things like the Favonius Sword or the Sacrificial Sword. And what I mentioned earlier is that I was kind of on the fence between Sac Sword and Favonius Sword, and the reason is Sacrificial Sword, of course, does reset your cooldown for your elemental skill, which is fantastic because he does have a relatively long skill cooldown. However, the problem with that is whenever you recast your E, the emblems that were on the ground, those are going to be reset, and that's very important to remember. So you're going to have to cast his E, swap to somebody else, or have him pick them up, and then you can use the E again to then, grab those emblems for somebody else or whatever. And what I do really like about this is that it allows the Traveler to be selfish sometimes. Is essentially you're like, oh, my queue isn't really filled up all the way, so you use his E every set, so you're like, oh, cool. You let him go ahead and grab the emblems, then use his E again, then swap to somebody else to take advantage of the emblems, and he's on his way to getting his burst a heck of a lot quicker than most weapons. So that's the nice part about Sacrificial Sword. It also does have the added benefit of just kind of being able to have more burstier options, where essentially you can use his E, you can pocket the next one for somebody else who really needs their burst in that moment, and it allows you for a little bit more meticulous control of your teammates on the battlefield. But what are the advantages of Favonius Sword? And the thing about Favonius Sword is that it is a heck of a lot more simple to deal with. As I said, Sacrificial Sword allows for a lot of meticulous gameplay with his E skill on who's getting what energy and energy recharge. However, this allows you to just kind of, say, screw it, and you use his E skill, you get some free neutral energy particles that are going to benefit the entirety of the team way more than the Sacrificial Sword here, and that's really nice. On top of that, this, and as I said, this energy to neutral, so it's going to be giving more energy to the people who aren't benefiting from the emblems, so it's more of a team-wide thing, but it isn't benefiting those singular characters as much as the Sacrificial Sword is, so that's something you're going to want to think about. It's also not going to be benefiting the Traveler nearly as much as the Sacrificial Sword is, but I do think this is still a fantastic option. Do not sleep on those neutral elemental particles. They are really good, and I'd say the most important part about this is to keep in mind that it does rely on crit hits, and the percentage does scale with its refinement. Me having an R5 Favonius Sword compared to an R3 Sacrificial Sword makes me land on the fact that I want the Favonius Sword, but I think they're both on equal standing as to how good they are for the Electro Traveler and the team. I just kind of like this one a little bit more because it starts getting out of hand with only having 6 seconds between its intervals and having 100% chance on any crits. So as long as you have enough crit on your Traveler, then you really don't have to worry about anything. As for the stats for the main Traveler, I already showed them off a little bit there in the beginning, but I have 51% crit rate, 100% crit damage, nothing too crazy, a nice 2-to-1 ratio, the kind of one that you want, and then the energy recharge here at 224, which is really good. I think you start getting really comfy around like 240 or so, because then you're just giving 24 whole percent energy recharge to other people. It's really nice, and allows a lot of characters to just kind of like hit that tipping point to where they don't need an additional round of his E skill or anything. But this is still really comfortable. Hitting this point is really good, so it's definitely nothing too bad. And then of course electric damage bonus from the goblet there is really, really nice. All right, so we went ahead, we showed off the Electro Traveler build. Now let me show you how fast he can start charging some energy. We're going to go out to the Cryo Regisvine, and I'm going to have a depleted team of ults here. You see I have everybody's ult. I'm going to deplete those entirely. Then we're going to just see how fast we can get one of our characters' ults with the Electro Traveler helping out. All right, so as I said, we're at the Cryo Regisvine here. Nobody has any of their ults leveled up here, so that's really important to know. Traveler's the only one with his ult here, and we're going to be showing this off on Xiao, how quickly Xiao can actually get his burst, because Xiao does have a high cost burst at 70 cost. It's not the highest cost in the world, but it is still relatively high, and I have pretty okay energy recharge on my Xiao. 140% is definitely not too bad, but he can't really get his burst as fast as I would like him to, so somebody like the Traveler here is definitely going to help. And what we're going to do first is we're actually going to jump down here, and I'm going to show you guys just how fast we can get his burst with the Electro Traveler. So what you're going to want to do here is you're going to hit your E skill. We're going to grab these things with Xiao. You're going to hit your Q. I forgot to do that already, actually. I meant to do that a little bit earlier, but no fear. It doesn't really matter, because our Xiao is smooth sailing here, as he's already got his burst. We barely really had to do anything, and we can start collecting our next burst for Electro Traveler. Don't know if you saw how fast we're almost at his burst again. Now, one thing I want to show you extra here is just how much of a difference there is between the Electro Traveler helping Xiao out and Xiao just trying to get his burst by himself. Let's go ahead and jump back down there. Xiao's at 0 energy right here. We're going to go ahead and use that E skill 3 times, the same way that we had to get his burst with the Electro Traveler helping him out. Go ahead and use E here. Get those particles. And let's go ahead and get a third round of the E here. And that is going to put us at a little bit over half, maybe 60%. Definitely not at the 100% we were just at. So that's something to definitely put in perspective. Let's go ahead and use the E here. Let's have Zhao pick up these emblems here, and you'll see that Zhao's energy recharge went from 140 to 180, which is definitely a really big help. And not only that, picking up those emblems gave him energy themselves. So when he uses E skill here, he's going to be getting a ton of energy, which is really darn nice. And I'm canceling it here just so I can keep showing you guys how good this all is. And you see those neutral particles came in. They've been slowly recharging everybody else in the background, which is what I wanted to have these other characters in the background, because Zhongling and Noelle are also 80 cost characters. So these emblems and the neutral particles that we're getting from the sword have been recharging them in the background this whole time. And that's kind of the nice part about the Pavonia sword. See, we're already back at Zhao's ult here. And of course, if you're using other units and not just trying to use the Electro Traveler and Zhao, you're going to have Zhao's burst and the Electro Traveler's burst a lot more often than this. So we showed off the fact that, yeah, Electro Traveler is really good at getting some energy for higher cost characters like somebody like Zhao or something. He's also pretty decent at getting energy for somebody like Noelle, but characters that can generate their own energy like Zhao really benefit the most. So even somebody like Zhongling is also really benefited here. I have a future build that I'm really excited to show off with Zhongling. I just have to level some stuff up, but do keep in mind that is going to be coming. There's something you can do that is absolutely crazy with Zhongling, and I'm really excited to show you guys that. But you can take all of this a step further, by the way. You could just go full high cost elemental burst characters right here, and if you have like a dual electro resonance, you're just going to be generating so much energy from electro reactions here and the Electro Traveler that you really aren't going to care. If you really want to take this up another notch, put on Fischl. Fischl and the Electro Traveler together are absolutely crazy. You get them and somebody like Child here, you're going to be generating so much energy, you're not going to even know what to do with it, because not only are you constantly proccing this resonance, Fischl is already a character that was generating a ton of energy before the Electro Traveler, and now that we have the Electro Traveler who's just like a more energy-oriented Fischl, these two together is absolutely insane, and we'll actually show that off right now. I decided to change it up a little bit. We're not going to use Child just because it's going to be a little bit easier to use somebody like Eula, who has a higher cost than Child, by the way. I'm just going to show how much energy we can really start building here, and I'm just going to burn Eula's burst here, essentially, and Noelle's burst, actually, just so I can kind of show you guys how much energy we are really going to be flexing on these peeps. And you can see Eula here is already gaining an absolutely insane amount of energy from these two. And yeah, she's back at her burst before the cooldown was even there. Not to mention Noelle in the background almost has her burst back. She wasn't even really participating. Her burst is still going there, but it's already back off of cooldown. And so is the Travelers, by the way. And Fischl, I don't even think I procced the Travelers, by the way. So go ahead and see how this goes. Let's see if we can get this back. I'm not even trying to play optimally or anything, so don't even worry about that. I'm just trying to show off how crazy some of this can actually start to get. So you guys have an idea of just how crazy these battery teams can really be. To where you are constantly off of cooldown, just getting all of your stuff. These are high cost characters. Eula does not really have any energy recharge going for it. And neither does Noelle. They aren't big energy recharge characters, but the MC here and Fischl are just absolutely ridiculous in generating some energy recharge. That's all you really need. I haven't even been paying attention this whole time we're fighting. I've just been looking at the energy gauge and kind of hitting skills and whatnot, just so you guys know. But yeah, that's the absurdity of the Electro Traveler. This is kind of what he enables. We had some smaller versions of this in the past, but now that he's around and just constantly generating energy, you can do whatever you want and constantly have your bursts, and it's absolutely ridiculous. All right, so hopefully I drove the point home enough that the Electro Traveler is absolutely wild and can generate so much energy for a team. And when you pair him with somebody like Fischl, it just starts to get out of hand. Everybody's going to have their burst all of the time, and you can just do whatever you want. Do with that information what you will, but I highly recommend building the Electro Traveler, even at low investment. If you only have him at Ascension 4 or whatever, that's fine. He still generates a ton of energy. I went in on this just to see how much energy I could really build on his elemental skills there and level them up, and I gotta say I'm really satisfied, and I'm really excited to see what I can do with some future comps. And I hope you guys kind of enjoyed that video. Hope you guys see the value of the Electro Traveler moving forward, and I really encourage you guys to build them. But as I said, I have some other really interesting stuff coming up, especially that Zhongling build, and I'm very, very excited to go ahead and show that off to you guys. But let me know what you guys thought about the video, if you enjoyed it. How are you building your Electro Traveler, if any different? But other than that, my name's Blossoms, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya!